hot dogs on the grill last night with potato salad, and so he thought maybe you should have one of those. And I was like, well, I'm going to use those buns for supper too. You know, one of those mornings where you're just kind of trying to get, and I'm just sitting here and I said, no, I can wait. Go ahead. Make yourself something. Just looking at my phone, getting some things done. So anyway, welcome to all of you. Welcome back. 174 comments on the podcast last week. Thank you for helping make a community here. It's what we're really trying to do, is kind of lift each other up in this desperate time. So I'm glad you're here, and I have a lot for you today. So we've got audiobooks, and here comes Cody. We've got a sweater of the week, a shawl of the week. We have some tips and tricks, some podcast recommendations, a recipe or two, some special notes, and then we're going to check the iRockKnitters hashtag. If you've been using that, I really appreciate it. I love looking and seeing what everyone is knitting. And then I have one, maybe two Corey stories for you today. So let's get started, okay? Let's go right into the audiobooks of the week this week. I finished a book I forgot to tell you I was even reading last week, and this was called What the Eyes Don't See. I listened to it on the Libby app, and it is a story of crisis, resistance, and hope in an American city. And this is the story of how Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha, alongside a team of researchers, parents, friends, and community leaders, discovered that the children of Flint, Michigan were being exposed to lead in their tap water. It's a heartbreaking, sad, informational discussion on exactly what happened there, how she found it, how she had to battle to get people to admit that there was a problem. And 5 years later, many of the Flint residents are still unable to drink the tap water. Many children were harmed, and I really wanted to learn more about that. It was just a really interesting process that she went through. She's an excellent writer. There's a lot of factual information, but she told it as a story. She did tell it as more of a story, so you're following families that were her patients and going along with them on this journey that they were on, so it was highly readable or listenable. It was 11 hours and 11 minutes. It came out in June of 2018. It has 4.5 stars on Audible. Highly recommend if you are... Okay, we have the windows open today because it's beautiful outside, and I just said to my husband before I started, I don't know about the windows because they howl sometimes when we have wind going through. It's beautiful. It feels great, but I almost thought that the town whistle was going off there. So anyway, you'll just have to put up with it. Otherwise, I'll shut them and sweat a little if I have to, because I got the lights up today. Okay. The second book I am just finishing. I have a little tiny bit left this afternoon. I was trying to finish it this morning on my walk, but it's called Pachinko by Min Jin Lee, and I'm going to read you the description because it is 18 hours long, so there's a lot of story, and this is a kind of a succinct description of what it's about. Profoundly moving and gracefully told, Pachinko follows one Korean family through the generations, beginning in early 1900s Korea, and Sunja, the prized daughter of a poor yet proud family whose unplanned pregnancy threatens to shame them. Betrayed by her wealthy lover, Sunja finds unexpected salvation when a young tubercular minister offers to marry her and bring her to Japan to start a new life. So begins a sweeping saga of exceptional people in exile from a homeland they never knew and caught in a different arc of history. So they leave and go to Japan, and I was kind of unaware of the hatred toward the Korean people of Japan in those early years, and then you follow them all the way up to present day. So you're starting with kind of grandparents, then parents, then children, and there's all kinds of things that happen to this family. I might have had trouble reading it because some of the names are unfamiliar to me and would be hard for me to kind of pronounce in my head. I've talked about that before, but listening to it was just a real pleasure. It was very well read. The narrator does an excellent job, so I would recommend it, but it is long, and so you really want to feel and want to know more about all the characters, and she doesn't always, or he, I assumed it was a she, anyway, doesn't always give you enough to really care about some of the new characters before you have to go into that section. So that's the only little bit of shortcoming, is that it could be longer, so. She was also the author of Free Food for Millionaires. And if you are a fan of A Fine Balance and Cutting for Stone, then this is your type of book. So I had 2 books this week that I kind of got finished up. I had just finished the first one, started the second one, listened almost straight for 2 weeks to get that second one finished. So I'm excited to go on to a new one. Let's share the recipe of the week, shall we? So last week I was looking for a interesting, fun summer salad to have with some meals, and I made a salad called pasta shrimp. And it is super simple. It's a kind of a dump and stir recipe. Makes a huge batch, so I would not recommend it if there are only 2 people in your family and you don't want to eat it for days. Half the recipe, or give half to a neighbor, or take half to a friend, or something like that. Here you go. A box of ring macaroni, chopped celery, chopped radish, chopped hard-boiled egg, chopped onion, cucumber, green pepper, a small jar of pimento, and salt and pepper to taste. Then you mix it together with mayo, Miracle Whip, Western dressing or French dressing dolloped into that. So it is a mayo-based pasta salad, but if you have a other dressing, oil and vinegar type dressing, you could certainly substitute that in for this. This uses 2 cans of baby shrimp or a package of frozen tiny little shrimp. I had a big package of frozen shrimp big shrimp in my freezer, and so I thawed those and then cut them into small pieces so that it was kind of the same texture and consistency of the cucumbers. And I have to leave out the onions and peppers mostly because my husband won't eat those, and so I often will just substitute with like onion salt or garlic salt because he won't eat onions, peppers, or garlic, which makes my life a living no, but I really miss peppers and onions sometimes. You could substitute any other chicken, tuna, cheese. You could leave out the meat, the shrimp entirely if you chose to. This is a recipe my mom had years ago, so I wrote to my dad an email and said, hey, because he's been doing a lot of the cooking since retirement, and I said, you should make Mom's pasta shrimp. And she called me and she said, we need the recipe, we can't find it. And I said, Mom, it's your recipe. I know. She said, I don't know what happened to my recipe, but they couldn't find it. So they were going to make it, and then they were having a neighbor man over whose wife has passed, and they were going to give him half of the salad so that they didn't have to eat it for days either. So yeah, you just chop everything up and dump it in a big bowl. I highly recommend that you use ring macaroni. It is that whole, all the pieces of everything are the same size. We couldn't get ring macaroni currently. I had a half a box, and so I should have just halved the recipe, but I didn't. I was kind of thinking I would give it to Kylie and Stevie as well, but anyway, so we used the smallest shells we could find, but it wasn't that memorable salad from my youth that my mom made, which I've made a number of times, but because it didn't have that ring macaroni. So wait until you get the ring macaroni. I'll put this up on the Ravelry page under recipes, and tonight I'm making for supper, and I just put it in dredged the chicken, but I'm making Russian chicken. and that takes a dry onion soup mix package, some Russian salad dressing, which is different than French or Western, but Russian salad dressing. It's darker, taste and flavor. It's deeper, and apricot preserves. So it basically makes a barbecue type sauce, sweet, savory, and I use about a cup of each of the sauces and then pour the onion soup mix in there. So then tonight I wanted to have our barbecued chicken on these hot dog buns that we are not going to eat because there are only two of us here. So I cut my breasts into strips so that I could dredge them in the barbecue sauce and then just cook them so that we can have them on the buns if we choose to. But I told Ross if he wants to have his just on the side, I'll make. We bought sweet corn at the farm stand, so it's that time of year. And so we've got 7 ears of sweet corn that we need to eat up. So I think we'll have that with it tonight. But I'll put both of those recipes up on Ravelry for you. Okay, I have a couple of podcast recommendations this week. The first one is called Through the Back Loop with Peggy. She has 15 episodes up, and she is a knitter sewer and very experienced knitter, I would say. I watched episode 15 and haven't gone back to episode 1 yet, which I would like to do. She did the knitting up front, and she was wearing the cutest cowl. You need to go out and look at that cowl because it was really cute. I think it was by Jane Richmond. It was the one that has fringe on it, and I went over and put it in my queue. I think it was more her sense of style and how she was wearing it that I really, have you ever done that? You just want to look like her? It was really cute. So Peggy of Through the Back Loop, give her a look. And then I watched Little Red Mitten podcast, which is with Carrie and Jolynn. They are on episode 4, and they own a yarn store in Canada, and they are the dyers behind Leo and Roxy Yarn. And I saw that yarn on the Grocery Girls podcast, I think, a week or two ago, when I was sitting and knitting in the afternoon, and then I thought, oh, I'm going to take a look at the Little Red Mitten. Or it popped up, maybe that's what it popped up in my suggested for you. So anyway, 2 new podcasts that you might want to give a little love to if you are knitting and need something to watch. Okay, I have a couple of tips and tricks this week, and one of them is an article I read on why gauge swatches sometimes lie. And it was on the Mary Annarella blog, so some of you probably already saw it, but she did a whole blog post on gauge swatches and why we say sometimes they're liar, liar, pants on fire. There are several reasons why sometimes gauge swatches lie. And I'm not going to steal all of this because you can certainly go out and look at Mary Annarella's blog post, but I will give you the 4 tips that she went over, good reminders for all of us. Number 1, your swatch is too small. The gauge of your stitches often gets distorted at the top, the bottom, and the edges. So then she goes on to give another whole paragraph about that. Number 2, you forgot to block the swatch as you would the sweater. Right? You're never going to block your sweater? Ever, or wash it? Ever? But you made your gauge swatch and measured it and then started knitting on your sweater without any washing or spritzing or hanging or anything? Number 3, your yarn has a fiber that likes to grow. Alpaca, cotton, and silk like to stretch. Number 4, you're working at a loosened gauge for the weight of the yarn, right? You're knitting on a bigger needle size than the yarn might require, or you're looking for that bit of drape, and with that loosened gauge would come a bit more stretchability. and a little more sagginess and bigger holes between your stitches. Does that make sense? So you can go over and take a look at that if you're interested in all of her, the rest of her information. But it was a really good reminder for me that some of us still struggle with gauge swatches and wondering why, it's such a problem. So the other tip or trick that I'm going to talk about today has to do with the pie shawl and the concept of pie shawl, because that's our shawl of the day today. I have only ever knit one pie shawl, and it was the Elizabeth Zimmerman pie shawl that was in Knitter's Almanac and Knitting Workshop, as well as in Knitter's Magazine. And I knit mine many, many years ago, did not pick the appropriate or right, maybe correct, best yarn to use. I used a blend with some acrylic in it, so it's a little shiny. It doesn't hold a block super well. Okay, he has his paw and his head wrapped around the leg of the stool that the camera is on. This is the second time I've started over on this section because dog. I'm just gonna keep going. Sorry, guys. Anyway, the concept of pie is 3.14. Every time you double the distance from the center point out, you double the number of stitches that you knit around. And you do that at certain points throughout the width or however big you want the shawl to be. And there's an entire formula that you can do to make your own pie shawl. You would not have to follow a pattern. So let's say you want to knit a pie shawl that's 60 inches across. And so it would be a 30-inch radius. And your gauge is 4 stitches and 5 rounds in an inch. So your rounds to work is 30 inches at 5 rounds per inch. So you're going to knit 150 rounds. You take 5 times 30 and get 150 rounds. So you can just knit stockinette. You could knit garter. You should be able to put in any type of yarn over situation to make the increases. You could knit front back, make the increases. Just, it's a generic type of calculation to make that. Now, there are tons of pie shawls out in the world, patterns that you can absolutely follow that are gorgeous. And I have a few here that I found on a blog that someone wrote. There's the Wonderland shawl, the Berry pie shawl, the Diamond Rings pie shawl, and there was a whole class available by Kate Atherley. If you're not a follower of Interweave or interweave.com, lawnmower guy driving up the street. If you're not a follower of interweave.com, they have videos that you can purchase and then keep in your library, and they usually run about $20 for each class that you might choose to take. But they were having a half price off sale, and so I bought a bunch of classes to just watch or to have. And the Kate Atherley pie shawl class is on sale right now for $10. So if you wanted to learn more about pie shawls and you're home right now and looking for something to do but want to kind of engage your brain a little bit, that might be something that you'd be very interested in taking a look at. Also, Blueprint had an entire article on pie shawls. Ashley Little is the person who writes a lot of their informational posts, and she did a whole article on pie shawls and the kind of the formula. That's where I found the formula for actually doing the pie shawl. But I'm going to take a look here and show you how the pie shawl works. See how you start in the center, and then you do a set of increases, and then when you get, I think that's 1 inch out, then when you get 2 inches out, you do a set of increases, and then you get 4 inches out and you do a set of increases, and then you just continue to go. And these are all yarn over increases, and you just keep going until you get as long as you want it. Now this particular one had an applied border. There, can you see? You see this? The applied border that you go around and you attached as you went. So you went back and forth all the way around this. And it's just lovely. It's just lovely. I never wore it to anything, but because my dining room table is a high top table with eight stools, chairs, this is the table that we eat at occasionally, but mostly we do puzzles and play games here. Especially when Kylie was in the house, she would have people over and they would sit in here. I use it as a tablecloth for this table because it hangs off evenly on all four edges. It always looked really pretty. It does have an owie in it right now, so there's a safety pin pinned in it somewhere because it got pulled or something snagged or whatever, but it really could use a good wash and block. But like I said, it doesn't really stay the block because it's got acrylic in it, and but it has worn. It'll last forever, right? Because it's got some plastic in it. But yeah, it was a very, very fun thing to knit. I used a fairly large needle and yarn that was probably, I'm going to say this was either sport or DK weight yarn with a fairly good size needle. So it wasn't tiny, it wasn't lace weight, although many of them are made with lace weight. I hope that you can see, and if you've never done a pie shawl, I would highly recommend. There is a tutorial, and I don't know if I purchased it as a pattern or not, where you just make a little itty bitty one. You just cast on in the middle in a little loop and circle, and then you just go around, and so you kind of get the idea of what it's like. If I did that in a class and I took the class and got a little written out, but you wouldn't have to make an entire, like you could literally make a doily. You could make a doily for the back of your chair or the back of your couch or for your side table. You don't have to make it gigantic. So you might want to take a look at doing an actual pie shawl. Mine's quite heavy. It does weigh quite a bit. Probably because of the yarn I chose, but that'll give you an idea. Now what am I wearing today? This is my rainbow Attagirl sweater. This is a great little sweater. If you're looking for a fun summer sweater or fall sweater or spring sweater, this is really a good little sweater. It's a raglan shaping, and these are yarn over knit 2-togethers. I held DK weight double in my original Leading Men Fiber Arts collaboration that I did with them. It comes in a long version and a cropped version, so you can make it shorter or longer. But this is knit out of Knitted Wit. I've worn it a ton, and it is bulky, Aran to bulky, and so I just knit a big one size up from the original pattern. Although when you get up into the bulkies, you get really close to the gauge that you need for that DK weight, and it's just super open, so it works up really fast on a fairly large needle. And I'm going to cast one on with some Madeline Tosh ASAP in the citrus color, bulky, and see if I can't get a sweater done in the next few weeks here once the ebook is at the at the tech editor for a while. Just really trying hard to finish that thing up and get it done and get it out. Okay, the sweaters of the week this week, I have two that are the Sugar Maple. And this sweater is in my top 5 sweater of things that I loved making and I love to wear. And I will definitely make it again. The Glacier tunic that I did out of the Knit Picks yarn, or that I talked about, because did I wear it on the podcast? I must have, is similar in its construction. They're tunic length. And so this is my original one. and it came out of a kit that I got from, I should show you what I'm talking about here first, but this is from Karina Spencer's Ravelry store, and there is the one that I fell in love with, so I had to have the exact same one. And she did two different versions. One is in fingering, and she used Twisted Fiber Art. And Twisted Fiber Art is a luxury dyeing yarn company. And I purchased the yarn to make this in the size that I needed to knit so that I would get through all of the colors without not getting to the bottom colors. Does that make sense? So I got two cakes of yarn that were attached to one another, wound up, and then a little bit of extra green at the very bottom. You're not seeing the yellow and the green here at the bottom. Now in hindsight, because I'm a bright, I wish I would have done this section a little shorter, taken some yarn off of this section so that the color was closer to the top, but it just really is a fun piece. But the time and energy that it takes to dye that yarn so that you're going through each section to make it long enough that's incredible, right? So it comes with a hefty price point, and it needs to be your birthday, Christmas, anniversary present for the year, right? I'm gonna say I bought it a number of years ago, and it was just under $200 for the yarn. Oh, it was, significantly expensive, but I asked my husband if he would buy it for me as a gift, and I'm so glad I did. Working with the yarn was exquisite. Having the colorway that I was so drawn to was really fun. I really liked making it. Basically what you're doing is there's a raglan increase happening here, and then there's a row here. So you have 5 stitch markers. Raglan, 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 and then 1 stitch marker right here where you're increasing all the way down, and it is offset. This should not be, this is not a V at the center of your bust. It is off to the side slightly. It's asymmetrical when you wear it. And I did see a ton of people do it with fade kits. I've seen people do it with just skeins of fingering weight yarn that they like. I've seen people do it all in one color. So go out and look at the different iterations that there are out there of it, because you do not need to have this yarn in order to make this sweater. Is it fun to have this yarn? Absolutely. I'm assuming that they're still making these put-ups in all the different colorways. If you've never seen the Twisted Fiber Art website, it's a sight to behold. They do colorways like this, color changing, long color repeats in for shawls. It's an amazing technique that they've developed, and I would highly recommend their yarn, but it does fall on the pricier end of the spectrum. So then a couple of years ago now, 2 years ago, I was at the Virginia Beach yarn retreat, and they have a special night where we go to the local yarn store, and she brings in indie dyers who set up card tables all the way through the shop, and then you can purchase yarn. And I was in line checking out with like 1 skein of yarn, and I saw this gradient sitting there, and I was like, oh, I could have another sugar maple if I bought that. That's really fun. And skeined up, it was white to this neon-y green into this color, and then it went to black. And I purchased it, and the black was speckled, and then it got darker. But when I got home, I decided that because this one was so dark at the top, that I would prefer if it didn't have the dark color too at the bottom, or I could have reversed the order of it, which is another option. It could have gone from the green to the black. So I got touch with Bad Wolf Girl yarn, and I talked about her previously, and that she has a podcast, and purchased the pinks and the greens from her that matched this section so that it became like a whole party of bright colors as opposed to. So same concept. I did the same thing, short sleeved, changing colors. I did sit at a knitting retreat, maybe even ZK one year, and say, how can I best fade this in? And I think, and it's probably on my project page, but I think I did 5 rows of white, 1 row of green, 4 rows of white, 2 rows of, this is kind of a greeny yellow, 3 rows of white, and then 2 and then 1, going and fading it in that way. And then I'd get down to here, and then I did the same thing again. Finished with 5 rows of this, and then went into 1 row of pink, 2 rows of pink, 3 rows of pink, all the way down to make that fade happen. And that worked really well. But I have to thank someone. The feeling Stacy was sitting at the table that time when I was trying to decide how the color should go on that. I just love the way this fits. Now, the back of this sugar maple does not cover your hiney, and the front hangs down pretty far because it comes to a V in the front. So can you see that there? But in about right here. So it would not cover, if you want to wear leggings or jeggings or tights or whatever, women of a particular age might not particularly, well, anybody might not want to have their hiney hanging out right there. So I made a tire flap. Basically, is I just made a side split here and went back and forth on this section and kept going in the back. Because the front hangs long and then the back hangs long, it just doesn't look too bad, I think, to have this be 3 inches longer so that you get a little more coverage in the back side. Okay, it's a good day. I forgot to hit record. I did this section. It's all right. Okay. How do you do that? I'll tell you how. There's a reason. Okay. Calm myself. Tips and tricks. Special notes section. Things that I can't forget to tell the podcast folks. Shout it from the mountaintops, Corey. These are things that you need everybody to remember or know. Special notes section. It gets longer every week. The Empower People Brioche cowl came out. So there you go. Nancy Marchant put it up on Ravelry for free. It is charted. It is written out word by word. There are 2 versions. There is a not so fancy and then a fancy. It's got increases to make the cowl happen. She knit it with fingering and fingering and mohair held together, size 6 knitting needles, free pattern, Empower People. So the one we're all going to wear when we go to vote, a purple cowl, or we're going to wear it to remind people to vote. If people say, oh, I like your cowl, then you say, did you sign up to vote? Is everybody registered to vote? They're going to go vote. We've got to get out the vote. Part of the problem, and I heard this on the news, it might even have been 60 Minutes or something, is that normally they register voters at fairs, at craft fairs, at outdoor events, standing outside the grocery store. They're hustling up, getting people registered to vote, and we can't do any of that. So people won't be registered. So you need to ask people that you probably don't know, if they've registered and if they know how. We need to help people get registered to vote because everyone deserves a voice. So get your garter stitch purple Empower People cowl knit, or go over and knit the brioche one. I only have 1 skein of purple yarn wound up to knit the garter one, so now I got to find another skein of purple to go with it because I really want to knit this. And then I wound up worsted, I think, and this is fingering, so I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to work that out. Find a purple skein of fingering up there in my stash somewhere. I probably have that. So anyway, then the second thing on my special notes section is that I think I found a Pinterest person. Someone got in touch and her daughter is a Pinterest pro. And so I can hire her to help me learn how to do a better job with my pins on Pinterest and growing my pattern sales elsewhere. So this is what you can do for me. If you're a Pinterest person, and several of you said you were, could you go pin my patterns? Could you go out and just pin them? Give yourself a little pattern, iRockKnits Designs folder, or create a new one, or just pin them. I need to start generating some Pinterest pins. I don't even know what I'm doing. No, I do. I'm going to advertise and I'm going to put pins out there, and I've got some tutorials that I'm going to do, and I'm going to put those out there. So I just need people to start pinning some of my patterns and things so that I generate a little interest in patterns that I have done. I think I should know this off the top of my head, 38 patterns out there. Anyway, so go pin a few. Pin the ones you like. Pin the cowls, or pin the sweaters, or pin the hats, or whatever. Pin them all. Thank you. Closed captioning. I got the closed captioning to work, but I'm not exactly sure how I did it. So I did an auto generate, so it automatically generated the closed captioning. So that if you want to turn that on, you can. It should be at the bottom of your screen. I will do it every time, as long as I remember how I did it, how I finally got it to go last time. See, what the problem for me was, I could do it after the fact once I'd uploaded the video, but I couldn't do it before. I didn't have the right thing switched before. So I went in, retroactively and did it. And now I want to do it like when I upload this beforehand. And so I know where it's at, but there are 3 choices. You can make one of 3, and one is typing them all in yourself. One is using like an aggregator that would do it for you, but then you edit it. And then the third one is that YouTube does it. And so I think I have it, but this is the question I have. Would it be helpful if I went back and did them all? Should I go back and put closed captioning on all the videos, all 50 videos that I've had before this? If I figure out how to do it, retroactively, I don't think it would take me too long. And so I probably should. I guess I'm answering my own question, because why wouldn't I want it to be accessible for everyone? Yeah, that probably answered my own question. I was watching a video on how to do it with a guy on YouTube, one of those techie pro guys that stands up there and tells you how to do everything you need to do once you Google it. And he said that he showed on the screen, because you can get all these metrics for your YouTube channel, like how long each of you watch. Like I can look and see that you guys only watch for 32 minutes, not an hour, or some weeks you have more engagement, how many people comment. Like it all comes up in different charts, not you personally, but like all my viewers. And so I'm watching this guy, and he put up his stuff, and 10% of his audience uses the closed captioning. And that's a big number, right? And it shouldn't matter, even if it's only one. So, closed captioning, coming to the videos, Corey's videos near you. I might do that after my surgery. So, my hand surgery is scheduled for September 2nd. I saw my 3rd doctor a week ago on Friday, and basically he said, you need to have the surgery. You can wait. I have people who wait. And then I have people who've done it long before it's as bad as yours is. Both of my thumbs are dislocated right now. Both of these are sitting outside of the joint, which is why I have so much pain. It does not hurt me to knit. Had it hurt me to knit, I would have had the surgery already. What it hurts me to do is grip or pinch or lift or tweeze or cut anything. That I drop stuff all the time. I'm gonna have a big accident soon because I think I can pick it up and then I can't. So the surgery scheduled. They're going to remove my trapezium, which is a little triangular shaped bone at the base of the thumb. And then he puts a special wire in there. And he's going to start with the left hand. And then 3 months later, I can have the right hand done. So I'm going to be laid up for a little while. And I don't know what that means for the podcast. It'll really depend on, how I feel. I'm certain that I can sit here and talk to all of you. Whether or not I can get everything typed up and set out and, I can edit all of the stuff and I can get the stool in between the table with the camera and the lights. My husband might have to help with some of that. The first 2 weeks are a little rough. You are in a splint and your fingers are free, but your thumb is very, very immobile. So until you get out of that first splinted cast, he said it can be a little tough. So we'll just see how it goes. I know you guys will hang in there with me. Number 4 special note. Is anybody else watching Chelsea Memel on her Instagram or on YouTube? The former Olympic gymnast from 2008 who is 32 years old and has 2 kids and is back doing gymnastics again. And it's amazing. Like, if you ever sit in your chair and hurt and think, I don't want to get up because my shoulder hurts and my hands hurt and my knees hurt and my darn foot hurts. Oh, wait, that's just me. It's amazing to watch this woman who is stronger now than she's ever been, and she's going to try to make a comeback. And whether or not she is able to come back to gymnastics and go for the 2021 Olympics, it is an emotional, amazing journey for anyone who loves watching gymnastics to think that there comes a point when you're in gymnastics that you never get to do it again. You have to stop because you're too old or too big or too out of shape or whatever. It should never be that way. Soccer people get to play soccer for the rest of their lives, right? Or runners get to run, and athletes get to play volleyball or whatever it is, swim. But gymnasts, like you walk out of the gym one day and you are kind of told to never come back. You can coach, but to actually, and she said, why can't adults do gymnastics? Why can't people go back and try back handsprings and flipping and running and doing cartwheels and doing flips into the pit? You could do flips into the pit in a gym forever, right? Because you have a sense of your body in the air, so you can just land and crash into the pit. It has been so much fun to watch. So her name is Chelsea Memel, and go follow her on Instagram. She posts almost every day, and she posts what she's working on, and she's amazing. Like, we're not talking she's back doing forward rolls and cartwheels. She's owns a gym in Wisconsin. Her dad was her coach. He's coaching her now. During the lockdown, she started working out with her 2 little kids in the gym because no one else was going to the gym. And she started doing things that she had done back in the day. And she kind of got robbed out of the 2012 Olympics. There was some controversy, and you guys know that all that kind of stuff has gone on. But go give her a look. She posts videos, workout videos. So if you're really a workout queen, she does, hey, this is a Chelsea Memel challenge. And she does things in the gym that she encourages young gymnasts to try and things like that. And she's hanging on a bar, lifting her toes up, and over to the side and things like that. So it's just really an amazing thing. And I think watching it from now up through 2021, whether or not she makes it, will just give you a feeling of awe and purpose. And, if she can keep from getting injured, there's no reason that she couldn't do it. It's really, really motivating. Okay, then I have another thing for you to go look up. How many of you out there are Spotify users? You have Spotify playlists, you use it for free, or you actually have a subscription to the app. So Spotify is a music app where you play music. And my daughter went to high school and has a dear friend, who went to Nashville to study music, to go to college, and to try to make it in the music career. She got a degree in business, music business, being in the music business, I think, something like that. Anyway, Kylie has kept up much closer. But I have a knitting friend whose son is the significant other of this young person, and her first single came out on Spotify. So I want you to go all look and listen to it. I'm going to play just a teeny tiny bit for you here. It's called Better, Better is the song, and her name is McKenna, MCKNA. So she's abbreviated it in capitals, MCKNA. You can go and follow her on Instagram. Isn't that cool? If you know better, do better. Don't just talk about it. Isn't that? It's like an anthem. I probably played too much. I'll shorten it up a little bit. But please go listen to it. Tell the youngsters in your families, right? Well, yes. Absolutely. So I just wanted to share that because she's trying to make it, and the downloads are happening, and she's super excited. And she did a GoFundMe to raise the money to get the studio time to hire the musicians and do the things that you need to do to get that all done and to get it played by people. And that's what you do these days. And so I'm just really excited for her. That's like achieving a dream, something that you always wanted to do, and you get it done. So congratulations, McKenna. Yeah, it just felt like a something that I should share with folks. Happy news, these uplifting stories of people. All right, Fiber World is happening. A huge virtual Fiber Fest in August. The teens, what is it, 16, 17, 18, something like that. Go out to fiberworld.com and take a look. They've got amazing classes and all kinds of vendors and things you can look at, and you can do it all from the comfort of your own home. You can sign up for the classes. They're going to have workshops. They're going to have speakers. So go take a look, fiberworld.com. And then I had someone ask, so I did it. I put a coffee link in my link tree on my Instagram. It's not necessary, but I put it out there. So, it's a place to pay people for a cup of coffee. Anyway, someone asked me twice, and so I added it. So on my Instagram, right there at the bottom, right there, is the link tree. If you click on that, you will get a page that comes up that looks like this, and you can click in any of those boxes to go other places. So if you need to find my podcast, find my website, find my patterns, find my Facebook, it's a quick access spot, and you can put it on all the sites. So I have gone ahead and put that link tree there. Okay, I think we're ready for Corey's stories today. I am going to start with the information that I have gathered about Ravelry and the current situation that's going on there. In the middle of June, Ravelry did a website update and changed the entire look of the site. They had been working on it for 1.5 years, but within a few days, many people responded saying that they were unable to get on the site or use the site due to visual difficulties. Some people had migraines, some people had eye fatigue, some people had seizures. Ravelry was not responsive to any of that for weeks and weeks. And finally, last week, Cassidy, one of the owners of Ravelry, tweeted something very negative about a person who was asking for accessibility on Instagram, and then took the tweet down. They have been blocking people, and they're not allowing the discussions about the accessibility to happen in the Ravelry groups. That's their right. They own the site. However, people really, really want to have access to Ravelry. We all do. We helped build it. It is not a free site. It is paid for by advertising. It is paid for by all of our work that we do to put up patterns and information about the things that we knit. So they have tons of data that was provided. All of that was provided for free to them. Every time you post something to Ravelry, they get to have that information on their site. They have 8 million users, and if we think that 10% of people might be using closed captioning on any given video, then we can also probably assume that a small group of people also need things to be accessible. What I'm hearing most often from people is, oh, but they put a toggle so that you can toggle back to the old way that Ravelry was, to classic Ravelry, which I have done. However, here's my analogy. We have several yarn stores in the Twin Cities that are not accessible by wheelchair because of stairs. Some of them have alternative options to go in a different door and come up a ramp. Some are not accessible on that floor at all. And we don't say to those people who can't get to that, well, that's just the way it is, right? We try to make accommodations. But saying to someone who has a visual disturbance by Ravelry right now and what they've made in their site, that they can't have access to it, but they could have access to the old Ravelry if they go into the new Ravelry and toggle over. Well, that's like saying to a person, well, we have a ramp for you to use, but just this one time, you have to climb up these 2 steps. The first time you come in, you're going to have to get out of your wheelchair and climb up these 2 steps. Because then forever after, you could use something. It's still a little different up there. It's not going to be exactly the way it always was for you. There's still going to be some bumps in the road and some things that are going to be in your way when you get up there. That is not providing access. Saying to someone, you might have a seizure if you go on this site, is not an option for them. They can't go in and toggle the button on the site that has a problem. And certainly you can have someone else do it for you. But there are still some issues with old Ravelry. And the Ravelry owners and their employees right now are not responding to those concerns. They don't believe that they have a problem, although there are a bunch of UX designers, people who are in charge of user experience, who say, yes, this is an issue and we can help you. We could help you. They've had offers of help to fix it. But it's just like a yarn store that has stairs. If you can't access it, you can't use it. And if you were on it before and it was something that you used all the time, especially if you're a disabled person with sight issues and you could use the site before and now you don't even have access to your yarn, your patterns, your stuff, it's really sad. I'm so heartbroken that, and yes, absolutely, do I believe that someday they could fix it if they got their act together? Sure. But how long do we have to wait to hear from them? And how long are they going to dig in their heels? So lots of designers have taken their patterns off of Ravelry. Some have just moved to alternate sites. But if you don't want to support new Ravelry, you could toggle to the old Ravelry, because I think, this is just me, more people using old Ravelry, the more people they'll see aren't using the new version. And you could buy your patterns elsewhere. So you could buy them on Etsy, you could buy them on someone's website, you could buy them on Lovecrafts. There are 2 new websites that are currently being developed that will be in direct competition with Ravelry. I don't wish for Ravelry to go down. I don't wish for them to lose their site or any of that. But I am very concerned that I would have some of you who may not even have been on Ravelry in the last month or 5 weeks. If you have not been on Ravelry, you might not even know that you have an issue, right? People who've never had issues before are having some visual issues. I don't have a problem with it. It's not affecting me in that way, but it's affecting people I know. And so we have to listen, right? Just because you can't see a disability doesn't mean it's not there. You cannot say to someone, well, you just have eye strain. How significant does it have to be? I really have concerns about sending to people to Ravelry right now, and I want all of you to know that if you've ever had any type of flickering issue or something with your eyes, that you probably shouldn't go on Ravelry, at least for the time being, because they have not admitted that there's a problem or made a fix. They admitted that they heard people say things and that it has given some people anxiety. That's not the same. And I get it. They spent 1.5 years on that project. That would be a really hard pill to swallow. So, in the meantime, you can get my patterns on Etsy. You can get my patterns on Lovecrafts. If you need to see the show notes, I'm happy to email them to you. If you don't want to go in the Ravelry group and read the recipe, or are unable to look at the audiobooks, or you can't go into Ravelry at all right now, or you've decided to leave Ravelry. And some people left Ravelry 1 year ago. We all know that, right? So there's stuff going on there that we don't have any control over. But there are a number of big name designers who make an entire living for their whole family on Ravelry and probably can't leave because there's nowhere else to go and get the kind of access that we all have, the kind of publicity and the numbers of people coming to a site. So we can't blame a big name designer who's supporting her husband and children with her design career and say, well, you need to leave Ravelry. That isn't going to happen. That's not a good answer either. We need to all be able to do all the things, make it all work for everyone. So if you're on Ravelry right now and you don't have any problem with it, great, but you just need to be aware that there are people who do have problems with it. And I know of one person for sure that went to the hospital due to a seizure situation. So, it isn't just in someone's head. There was an article written, I think it was Psychology Today, a doctor, PhD, said basically this is hysteria, that people jumped on the bandwagon just to jump on the bandwagon. Who would do that? Who would say, I can't use Ravelry? I mean, what that only hurts you, right? It would only hurt, it just cannot be. Of course it was a man, I'm sorry, that said the Ravelry. You can look up the article. It's an article out there that he wrote about the Ravelry situation. And lots of people are writing lots of things. So go out and do your due diligence and Google and make up your own minds. But I don't want to send someone to Ravelry for them to have a problem, to get a migraine. Who wants to chance risk getting a migraine? So I just wanted to put it out there for all of you to be aware, because I know some of you aren't on Ravelry anymore. You're not on it all that much, but you should know what's going on in our little corner of the world. And you can look into the new websites or the alternates that people are putting up and make your own choice. Okay? All right. I have a story to tell that's a lot happier. We moved Kylie this weekend. She is moving into a house, and we were at her apartment on Thursday, and she had to be out by noon on Friday, and she couldn't get into her new house until Saturday at 1 o'clock. So we had a trailer situation where the stuff was going to have to be in the trailer for 24 hours. We had a refrigerator situation, like we're going to put all of our stuff in coolers and take it to our house. And, so there was some logistics involved in all of that. And then we had to clean the apartment because we want the deposit back, right? She has no money, so you got to get the whole deposit back. So you really need to clean the apartment you're leaving. And then we have a pandemic going on, so you have to clean the place you're moving into well while you're masked and gloved, so that you're making sure that place had been cleaned, but we cleaned again, right? And we did have 2 friends of hers help us, and so we all wore masks all day Thursday and all afternoon Saturday around one another, because we were, exposing ourselves to people that we hadn't been around. And so it was a big to-do. But what happened was I was washing the blinds at the apartment little kind of cheap plastic blinds. And she had a checkout list of everything that had to be done. Clean the stove, clean the refrigerator, wipe down the windowsills, wipe down the baseboards, clean underneath the radiators, all this stuff. And then clean the window blinds. Yes, wipe every slat. It's said on there. So me and my thumb braces were scrubbing, and it would have been best to take them down and put them in the bathtub or hose them off. But we didn't have access to a hose, and this is an old building and these were old blinds. You don't want to break them, right? The little strings that run to twist and untwist and flip them up and down, that was a little tentative. So I was wiping individual slats, and there were string runners in between, wiping. But I was going to town. When it gets up over my shoulder, I have trouble with this shoulder lifting too high. I can only go to about here. And so I'm tired, and so I'm sitting on a cooler because the rest of the apartment's pretty empty, and I'm wiping, and I'm looking out the slat into the alley. So Kylie's apartment is on an alley where there's some parking, and we had pulled the big trailer up behind to the back door, and then my husband had pulled it out and driven it 2 blocks away and parked it while we finished up at the apartment. I'm looking out the window, and all of a sudden I see this guy walking down the alley, and he's got a backpack on, and I have the slats turned up, so I'm just looking through a crevice, and all of a sudden I see this lime green bicycle go riding this way. And my daughter has a lime green bicycle, and the lime green bicycle was on the back step the last anybody had been out, and the bike rack needed to be put on her car, and she was at the parking ramp getting her car and driving it to the alley to put the bike rack on her car so we could put the bicycle on it. So basically, within 5 seconds, I was like, someone took her bike. And so I start to yell hysterically, as you do. Ross, Kylie, help, whoa. And 2 knee replacements and a bum foot. And I'm going to run out and tackle that guy. That's what I'm thinking in my head. We're up a flight of stairs. And so I'm running because I don't know if Kylie and Ross, Stevie was there. Kylie was gone. Anyway, doesn't matter. So I'm running. I'm running. And Ross is behind me, and he's like, get out of the way. And I'm yelling, bike, stealing the bike, yelling, and we get down the steps, and he goes past me. I get to the bottom of the step, and I start yelling because I'm going to stop him with my teacher voice. And he's not on the bike anymore, and he's walking toward us. Same guy, backpack, same colored shirt. And I was like, what'd you do with the bike? And he's like, oh, was that your bike? I thought that Jeremy just bought that bike. He bought it on Amazon. He did it on something. The guy is just blurbling. And the bike, he doesn't have the bike. And so Ross is running down the alley, and the chain came off the bicycle. Thank heavens. Because this is a nice bike. It's not a Schwinn, but a sit-up with a basket. And she's had it for years, and she loves this bicycle. And she bikes to law school and back. And so this guy is fluttering that his friend, he bought the bicycle, and it was going to be left in this alley, and that he was supposed to come pick it up. And then he's like, and the chain fell off, and I could help fix you that chain for you. And I'm like, you were stealing the bicycle, dude. You were stealing the bicycle. It's pretty obvious, And then Kylie's yelling, and so then he walks between the 2 apartment buildings, and Ross is wheeling the bicycle back, and the chain is, laying down, hanging down from below. And it was, your heart's racing, everybody's heart is racing, you're all upset. And then he got in his car, and what he was going to do is just drive the bicycle down, probably to some bushes or down the alley a ways, and ditch it so he could go get it later, and we would have come out to no bicycle on the back step. And would it have been the end of the world? No, we have insurance or we could have gotten a different bike. But she loves that bike. She's had it for, oh gosh, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, and she rode it all the time she was in college. And how I, out of those tiny little slats, saw that lime green bicycle go by. So I don't know like why I could tell that it was her bicycle, because it's got a basket and it's got this bright striped seat on it. And thank goodness I saved the day. I was gonna just run down the alley. I haven't run fast anywhere since my second knee replacement, and with this bum foot I couldn't run somewhere if I tried right now. And then I thought, I'll just use my voice. I mean, and the kid, there was some, he was a little weird, something, whatever, but, and, we didn't call the police on, I mean, he wasn't going to stick around, I didn't think, and I don't know where he came from or how he saw it, but it must have been like a split-second decision that he was just going to haul off and take that bicycle in the few minutes that that the trailer had gotten parked, and then they were going to get the car, and they have to swap the car keys, all. So anyway, moving Kylie, stolen bicycle. That's Corey's stories for today. Okay, one more thing. I'm trying really hard today to do something that 2 people have asked me to do, and I don't think I'm doing a very good job, so I'm going to have to do a different setup. But I had comments this last time that I don't look at the camera correctly, that I look off to the side, and that's really distracting for people. And I want to honor that it is distracting for you, but I also want to say that I don't have a video camera. So I record on my iPad. So my iPad is big, and I have the little camera right here, and then my face is here, and then the record button and the actual time is up here. So it's easy, very easy for me to get distracted by looking at what's going on over here, and like when I'm holding stuff up. And I will try to do my best to look at the camera. So today I've taped a piece of paper over the screen, and I've always had an arrow that says look that I tape on my iPad to remind me, but apparently I've gotten bad at looking at the camera. I can kind of see through the paper today a little bit, so that when I was holding things up, and so there's a shadow there, and so it is causing me to look over there a little bit, but I'm going to try really hard to look at the camera for those of you that were bothered by that. And people were kind. They said it in a nice way. It just always hurts a little when when people give you constructive criticism, and then you have to admit, agree with it, right? Yeah, you're right. I do that. But again, if I was doing it with my phone or a camera, I would have a better angle of where, I don't know, any of you that have a iPad know that there's just a strip of black and that the hole is in there somewhere. And you can't really see it all that well. So anyway, I want to acknowledge that I'm trying to make the change. So I'm going to continue to try to get better at doing this. Okay, so let's say hello to some folks. Kimberly Creator, Mary Lee Brammer, Donna Bauman, Pat Howes, Angela Jenkins, Debbie McKenzie, Ann Thompson, Sharon of Knit Style, Patty Skaggs, Brenda Tillman, Jenny Davis, Robin Gasser, Charlene Taylor, who watched the Stephanie Pearl McPhee videos and said they're excellent. And she's right. I watched the first one last night on repairing a sock. And I learned a couple things right at the beginning. She was talking about yarns and, I don't want to give it away, but I talked about that. You can go become a Patreon supporter of Stephanie for $6 a month, and she puts up a video every week. And so far, I watched the first one, and it was very good. And Charlene agrees with me. A. Catalano, Liz Nava, Rochelle, Kelly Mathern, Christine Teffenhart, Joanne Crate, Evelyn Burt, who likes to read books in order, and so she understood why I had to give up that one book last week. Thank you, Evelyn. I agree. Suzanne Scott, Peggy Bork, Annette Swerks, Connie, Kathy B., Michelle, Jesse's Mom 12, and Missy Allen, who both read The Gown and said they enjoyed it. So that was good to hear, because I made that recommendation on that book. Helen Henry, Randy Barnes, Sue Ellen, Heather Wilson, Danielle Brown, Kathy Bertel, Luann Hendricks, Joyful, who called me an encourager. I love that. I mean, you know, if you can be an influencer or a selfie taker or a podcaster, isn't encourager better? So yeah, I'll wear that. Thank you so much, Joyful. I want to be an encourager to all of you. Try a pie shawl, try the sugar maple, try to be good people, try to vote, do all the things. That's so thank you for that. That was a really kind comment. Carol Lee, Suzanne Scott, and Suzanne, I do want to hear from you about the closed captioning. So we need to talk. Glenda Bathgate, Pat Kohler, Katie Gendrow, Julie Smith, Lynn J, who talked about the roast beef spread. And some of you, I had more comments on ham spread, turkey spread, roast beef spread, memories from people kind of remembering meat grinders that their mothers had back in the day that clamped on the side of the table, and people saying, I've never heard of this, and then other people saying, oh my gosh, we had spread my whole life growing up. People didn't know about putting pickles in it, pickle relish, whatever. So that was really fun to hear about roast beef spread. I'm bringing back all the old recipes. Robin Micamont, Marlene, Carol Rabbich. Carol, I just want to say that I will sit with you and try to keep you company as much as I can. Carol's husband died in May when she's super lonely. So if anybody wants to reach out in the comments to Carol and say, hey, we're here for you, it must be really hard. I think she said they were together 50 plus years. And that it's just hard. And I just want you to know that I've thought about your comment a couple times since you commented 2 weeks ago. Okay, Olivia Menke, Patricia Lowe, Eileen Tamero, Penny Laughlin, Connie S., Candy Harris, Wanda Pites, who is reading all the Louise Penny books in order. And she's done a ton too. And she said it's been a while since I recommended them, but she's been reading them in order and she really likes them. Suzanne Selby, Cindy Buchheit, Shady Sue. I love Shady Sue. We had a little comment about her name. Beth Hoskins, Marie of World Peace. Hi, Marie, the podcast. Emily Doyen, Teresa Olson, Denise Norber, Karen Mezzacapo, Kathy Goodman. Hi, Kathy. Hope you're hanging in there. Bonnie Glass, Michelle Hokinson, Jeanette Robertson, who always says hi from Illinois. Hi, Jeanette. Brandis Curtin, Suzanne Selby, Mary B., Stacy Feichner, Beraria, Christina Anderson, Margaret Webby, Terry Monk, Carol Lynn, Carrie Walden, Joanne Goldenberg, Christine Cardinal, Cheryl Lacemaker. So we had a huge list this week of people saying hello, making comments, talking to me about recipes, talking to me about patterns. I had really good conversations with some of you. A few of you email me now, and that's absolutely fine. If you prefer to do that, Corey@iRockKnits.com. Or you can send me a message on Ravelry. A couple people did that this week and said, hey, I'm going to put my comment over here. It's easier for me. If you're watching on TV, I think it's a lot harder to comment. You know, it's easier on an iPad. You can stop right there and do it right in the comments below. You can edit your comments. So if you make a mistake or a typo or whatever, there's a little button at the edge of your comments so you can edit them. But never worry about that. You know, I don't think I've sent a text message in the last 6 months that didn't have a typo in it. My fingers, you know, texting is thumbs, right? And I'm a finger texter, and I constantly have errors. And it's not that I don't know better, but even sometimes I will read it through and send it and then see that I have something wrong. So anyway, I do want to say that the ebook is getting really close, and some of you asked me about that. So the ebook is going to contain 8 patterns at this point. It's going to photography. I have samples coming in right now. I'm gathering everything. I have 2 more pieces to knit, small pieces to knit tonight and tomorrow. and then I'll be sending it off. And then as soon as the photography's done, it will go to Jean, my tech editor. The patterns are all tech edited and test knit, and then she lays them out, and she'll be laying out the whole book. I'm shooting for September 1st. Jean thinks we can have it done by August 21st. I don't know about that, but I definitely want to have it up before I have my hand surgery. So you can be watching for that. Go out and subscribe or put your name in to get my newsletter so that you can get the coupon code once the ebook comes out. What else do I need to remind everybody about? Nothing too much, I don't think. I just hope you're all hanging in there. I think things have opened up for most people right now, and that we can go some places, right? We can go outside, we can spend, it's nicer outside in Minnesota, so we can spend some time outside gardening or in our yards doing things, and maybe not gatherings with people or getting together with people, but boy, moving during a pandemic, boy, that was a little, we had, we did have big talks about it, about how to make that happen and to be efficient and clean. Oh, the windows. At least we had to spend some time on the windows of the new place. The house was clean. The windows not so much. My thumbs got a little sore, even though I had my braces on. So anyway, hopefully it won't happen too much more in our lifetimes where we have to move people. Oh, and thank you for young men with positive attitudes, because those two young men were amazing. They were just like, where should I go next? What should I do next? Kylie, what do you want? Where should we take it? Where should we put this? Like, they were just super kind and so helpful, so that Ross and I didn't have to take big boxes and help with the big furniture. They did. Oh, that was, and in masks the whole time, which just makes it hotter, right? So I was hoping to get a picture of you guys, up for you guys, of my line dancing class. I went to line dancing 3 weeks ago, and it doesn't hurt my foot while I'm there, but boy, afterwards I'm really paying the price. But I just like it so much. And there are about 7 of us, and we're in a gym, so we're spread out and we're wearing masks. But we look pretty funny dancing in front of the mirrors with our masks on the whole time. So I was going to try to get a picture or a video. I don't know if people in my class would appreciate that, but would be kind of fun to show you all kind of how we're doing it. Our teacher has her mic underneath her mask, and then she's got a little microphone with a speaker unit to give us our cues, so we're not end up in line dancing. You learn the dance, and then you do it to either 2 or 4 walls, right? So you do the dance and then you turn. You do the dance, then you turn. And we do all different kinds of music. It's not just country. It's super fun. But we always, when we learn it and then we turn to the second wall, she calls that the amnesia wall. Because it doesn't matter that you just learned it and you had it down fine on wall 1. And then you turn to do it on wall 2 and you're like, what am I doing? I have no idea. I'm facing a different direction. So, and then sometimes you're facing wall 3 and everyone else is facing you because you turned the wrong way. So you have to have a good, attitude about it and just be like, it is what it is. It's really good for your brain. And there are lots of line dancing things on YouTube where they'll teach you the dance and you can just do it in your house. So if you are locked down and can't go anywhere and you've got anybody in your house that has any rhythm whatsoever, turn it on, give it a try, because it's really good for your brain. We just walk 1, 2, 3 forward, 1, 2, 3 back, heel toe, vine to the right, vine to the left, and yeah. And so the easy ones are not too hard. And if you've ever done any kind of dancing like that before, kind of like disco back in the day, do the hustle. But so it's the only thing, really, honestly, the only thing that gets me out of the house every 7 days, other than going to the dog park, which I haven't gone consistently because of my foot. I'm not going to many other places. Oh, I did get my hair cut though. I went for haircut number 2 and we chopped it up over the sides, because when you have thumb surgery, you're not going to be able to do your hair. So I said, Todd, it has to be Todd's my hair guy. It has to be able to have a hair dryer that goes like this, and then it's good. Because I can't round brush anything when I have my surgery because I won't be able to hold the hair dryer. Usually I do a little, whatever. So I said, we gotta do it not too short, but short enough so that I can just gotta start thinking about those things because it's a month away. And then next Monday I have a little colonoscopy. Gotta have that done. Stink. But I have a friend who watches the podcast who's having knee replacement surgery 2 days. So we're going to think about her too, right? She's a little scared. And I've talked to her a couple times saying, hey, the first 10 days are hard. But then it's so much better. So much better. So we got people in our community. Oh, I forgot to look up the IROC knitters. Let's do that quick. I've been keeping up, so it's not too bad. I've been keeping up. Did I just type that correctly? No. I made a mistake. We have only a couple in here that are new, but Randy is making those Helix hats. Hey, Randy. If you've looked up that Helix hat pattern, where you switch your rows and as you come around and then you switch to a second or third color. It's kind of a fun one, so you might want to check into that. All right, I'm rambling now. So until next time, keep it colorful and keep your fork. Love you all.